Every era has its legends, and some leave deeper marks than others. From the late 8th century to the 11th century, fierce seafarers from the cold lands of the north set out to change the world forever. Today, history remembers them as the Vikings. These brave warriors sailed across the seas, leaving their mark not only through conquest but also through trade and cultural influence. However, the legacy of the Vikings is more than just the battles they fought. Today, we'll dive into the mysterious world of Viking daily life, filled with facts you probably didn't know. When we think of Vikings, what usually comes to mind is fierce warriors and destructive raids. But what might surprise you is how dedicated these warriors were to cleanliness, more so than people of the same era. While many in medieval Europe only bathed a few times a year, Vikings bathed at least once a week. This may seem like little by modern standards, but for their time, it was remarkably advanced. Vikings had a unique way of staying clean, including what we now call sweat baths, the ancient version of today's saunas. By heating stones and using natural spring water, they created steam rooms where they would sweat out dirt and grime. Excavations have also uncovered various grooming tools such as combs, tweezers, and nail clippers, proving just how important personal care was to them. Cleanliness wasn't just about health, it also played a social role. For Vikings, especially when trading with different cultures, being clean and well-groomed helped them appear trustworthy and respectable. Hygiene wasn't just a personal choice, it was also a key to success in their social and economic lives. Viking society didn't limit beauty standards to women. Men took just as much pride in their appearance as women did. Viking men wore brightly colored clothes, valuable jewelry, and elaborate brooches to display their wealth and status. Some English monks even claimed that Vikings dressed so well, they used it to seduce women. For Vikings, appearance wasn't just about personal style, it was also a marker of social class. The wealthy could afford luxurious fabrics like silk, while the lower classes wore wool and linen. Jewelry also marked a person's status, with upper-class Vikings wearing brooches, bracelets, and rings not social role. Single women often wore colorful ribbons in their hair to show they were unmarried, while married women wore simpler, tied-up styles. Braids and buns were also markers of social status, and Viking women would sometimes wear headdresses, both decorative and functional, to protect their hair while still showing off their beauty. One of the most fascinating aspects of Viking culture is their tattoos. These brave warriors often covered their bodies with tattoos. An Arab traveler named Ibn Fadlan described Viking tattoos as stretching from their necks to their fingers, and they likely featured images of trees, animals, and symbols. While we may not fully understand the exact meaning of these tattoos today, they likely had spiritual and protective significance for the Vikings. Tattoo culture was closely tied to Viking beliefs. Norse mythology and symbols were central themes in their body art. Warriors often bore tattoos as a kind of talisman, believing that these marks would protect them both physically and spiritually. Symbols of gods like Odin, Thor, and Freya were common, and some tattoos likely represented personal victories or achievements in battle. Vikings' sense of aesthetics didn't stop at clothing and tattoos. They also took great care in the design of their weapons and armor. A Viking warrior's shield was often covered in artwork, with symbols that told their personal story. Likewise, axes and swords were carefully crafted, often engraved with dragon motifs or symbols of the gods. For Vikings, decorated weapons and armor were not just functional, they were also a display of status. The quality of a warrior's weapons showed their wealth and importance in battle. These decorative elements were also meant to boost morale and intimidate their enemies. Vikings left behind more than a legacy of warfare and conquest. They also shaped a unique culture and way of life. Their attention to cleanliness, grooming, and the art they wore on their bodies set them apart from other societies of their time. These details didn't just make Vikings great warriors, they made them cultural and aesthetic icons of their era. Today we know much more about Viking daily life, but many mysteries remain. One thing is certain though, these warriors live on not only in history books but in modern popular culture as well.